This video is to serve as a quick review of what we did in class this week. And what we did was we started talking about nonfiction reading strategies. So there are a number of different documents here or materials, and some of them we'll be working on next week. This was the exercise that we did in class at the beginning of the week. And it was meant, we read this particular section in the textbook, and you tried to answer these questions from the reading. And the purpose of this activity was to give me a sense of your capabilities as a student when it comes to nonfiction reading, your comprehension skills. So I asked the students to do this completely independently and try to answer the questions. And here's the link to get to that particular section, and here are the directions on how to get to the particular page in the textbook. I will say this is page 68 if you were to use the hard copy of the textbook. So this was a graded assignment that will be that was just to gauge your reading comprehension skills. This is a slideshow that reviews that assignment. So this is the actual page that assignment asked you to read, and I would ask anybody to first do that document that I just showed you and then come to this slideshow. And actually this slideshow is better narrated by me than you just looking at it. One of the questions on the document was, what do you do before starting to read? And I meant, here's the page, it's sitting in front of you, you're comfortable in your chair, what do you do, if anything, before you actually start reading the text? And, what we're talking about here is a pre-reading activity is what you should really do, which means that you should be doing things like finding the purpose for reading, activating prior knowledge. That's what the whole purpose behind a pre-reading activity is. What do you know about the subject already that you're going to read about? You should scan the pictures in the text. You should read any captions that go with those pictures. Read subtitles and titles. These are the subtitles in blue. And this is just to give you like an overview of what the text is going to be talking about once you start reading it. Scanning graphics and charts. You're notating on noting the bold words or italicized words or highlighted words. And of course, this may lead to some questions that you have in your head about what you're going to read and make predictions. So this is what is called a pre-reading activity. And then of course there's the reading. And in this part of the slideshow, it talks about where you find the answers for those questions. So at this point, I'm not going to move any forward with this video because I'd rather see you do the assignment on your own and find the answers on your own. So that's what this document is about, or the slideshow is about. Okay, this third one is a very important document because this lays out the strategies for comprehension. The practices, you might say, the habits of mind that you should use while you're reading. So there are 3 phases of reading. For successful readers, they do all 3 of these phases. And we're going to be practicing this throughout the year. Phase 1 is pre-reading, which I talked about before. Phase 2 is reading. And when you're reading, you're doing you're interacting with the text, and you're interacting with it in these ways. You're visualizing pictures in your head. You're connecting it to you, yourself and your world. You're connecting the information to yourself. For instance, if you read about cities, connected to you because you live in a city or a town. You may develop questions in your mind as you're reading. You should make inferences, predictions, or hypotheses. like in science, or draw conclusions on what you're reading, what the text is trying to say, and maybe where it's going to go next. You're evaluating the information, of course, that you're reading. This is very important when it comes to nonfiction reading. What's important and what isn't so important in the text that you're reading. You should self-monitor while reread. That happens to everybody. You start out reading a page, before you know it, you're at the bottom of the page, and you don't remember a thing that you read because you lost your focus and was thinking of something else. So you would reread. So self-monitoring is another interactive activity, you might say. Practice, habit of mind that you're doing when you're reading. So all of these, 6 of them, are practices or habits of mind to do while you're reading. And we're going to practice these when I give you assignments to read. It may be out of the textbook, it may be an article that I've chosen for you to read. Lastly is post-reading. So what are you going to do with the information? So oftentimes I'm going to ask you to write a short summary. Sometimes I'm going to ask you to discuss it with others or discuss it as a group. Sometimes we're going to take that information and we're going to apply it in some way. For instance, like you read some information about the Paleolithic age and the Neolithic age, and you created a slideshow. You applied it in that way. You applied the knowledge that you learned in the slideshow. So these are the 3 phases of reading: comprehension strategies, pre-reading, reading, and post-reading. This document is a reference for you so that you can do future assignments. So that's that. Next, this is a little quiz that we'll be taking next week, and this is what we did on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on your group. We had a little struggle in 62 because some of it was my fault, my responsibility in giving directions and setting up the document. Some confusion on my part. So I don't think people in one group, 62, made a lot of progress on this. And 61 made more progress, but still didn't finish. So both groups will finish this next week. So again, this is another section. The link takes you to the textbook, and then it takes you to the particular page that you're going to read, and you will do this in small groups and breakout rooms, filling in these, answering these questions. And you can see that it's not really questions, it's just asking you to actually practice the comprehension strategies, filling in information about what you did before reading, the pre-reading activity. While reading, did you do these interactive strategies? Did you visualize something as you were reading? Did you make connections to yourself while you were reading? Did you come up with questions? Did you make inferences and evaluate the information? And lastly, what you'll do as a group is you will create a summary of 5 sentences. So basically what you're doing here is taking what you evaluated, what you thought was most important, and kind of putting it into a paragraph of 5 sentences as a summary. So those are the documents, and what we're going to do, what we did a little bit this week, and what we'll do at the beginning of next week. And actually throughout the whole year. And that's it. It's a wrap. Thank you.